Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah ma ba'd. The person is asking here, I work for an employer and they have basically fired me from my job and I don't think I've done anything wrong which contradicts the employment contract that I have with them. Is this Islamically permissible or not? Now, the ulama have mentioned, now it depends on the details of the contract, but the ulama have mentioned that when a person has taken out a contract with a person, أَيُّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَوْفُوا بِالْعُقُودِ, you must fulfill the contract according to what you have agreed. And Muslimun ala shurutihim, the Messenger of Allah said that the believers are bound by their conditions. Therefore, the majority of the ulama have said that if a person has an employment contract and either one of the parties terminate the contract without the permission of the other person, then that person is sinful. That person is sinful. Unless if there is a clause in the contract which allows them to leave, this is known as fasq. They cannot annul that contract that they've got unless if it is mutual. So as the employer, he can't fire you unless if there is something in the contract which contradicts or something you've done which contradicts something in the contract. I mean, there's gross misconduct that has completely gone against the essence of the employment contract, and then he's got, bounds for him to terminate that contract with, and that is permissible. Otherwise, it's not permissible. And the other way around as well. As an employee, you can't just say, well, I'm not working for this person anymore, I'm not going to show up to work anymore, etc., without there being a legitimate reason for you to go against the contract. The ulama, and this is from the madhahib, all of them, they have said if a person contradicts the contract that they've got with the employer or the employer with his employee, then this is something which is haram. And some of them even classed it as a major sin. The majority of the ulama have said he gets paid for what he has done, and for the rest of what he has not done, he doesn't get paid for that, and he is sinful for that. The Hanabila have said he doesn't get paid for anything. So say, for example, a person has worked for 2 weeks in the month, and in the third week he leaves the employment contract, or the other way around, the employer does the same, right? The Hanabila have said he doesn't get paid for that whole month because he has gone against that contract completely. The majority have said no, he gets paid for the 2 weeks, or the other 2 weeks that he hasn't worked, which is contrary to the contract then he is sinful for that, but he gets paid for what he has done. And for me, that seems to be the more correct view. However, there is that dispute between the ulama. And the other way around as well. So if the employer breaks the contract, how much does he need to pay up? So the majority have said he pays up everything that has been completed by the employee, and what the employee hasn't done, he is sinful for. Whereas the Hanabila have said, no, this person who has broken the contract, he pays up for what he has done, and what he hasn't done as well as compensation. And this is an issue for the Qadi really to look into. I mean, this is an issue that we're discussing in fiqh, but between the huquq of people, this is something that we've talked about before, and something that people must understand. When it is concerning the rights of people, whether it's an issue in nikah or talaq or custody or inheritance or employment or business partnerships or anything which revolves around the rights of more than one person, then this needs to be taken to a person who's going to look at the affairs from all sides and look at the haqq of all of the people involved and then give advice accordingly. Therefore, fiqh is one thing and then judgment is another thing. Therefore, the ulama have mentioned this in the books of fiqh. They then need to take it to a qadi who will then make a judgment as to what he thinks is more correct. But this has been mentioned between. But the question is asking, can a person break the contract as an employer or as an employee without the other person's permission? And there is nothing in the contract to suggest that a person has the ability to break that contract. Then we will say, no, that's not permissible and that is sinful. But quite often, there are certain things in the contract which would, like we have just said before, which would nullify the contract on the spot, like gross misconduct, or they will give you a period for you to nullify your contract with. They will give you a period of fasq So they will say, okay, if you want to break the employment contract, if you want to leave the job, you need to give us 30-day notice or something like that. All of that is permissible. But if the person breaks the contract without anything which is stipulated, and there is no mutual, annulment of that contract, then that is something which is haram with all the madhahib. And like we said, then they've differed as to how a person will be paid and then compensated, and that it returns back to the qadi for him then to make that judgment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He grants us all the best of tawfiq and success. Wallahu a'lam. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad.